1, 2, 3. Okay? So I'll play a regular F minor chord. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. Let me do it again. It's coming around again. So here it is right here. Now I'll play a more colorful one. It sounds a lot better with more colorful ones. See that? In the left hand. Hey, welcome back to the Gospel Music Training Center. Thanks for tuning in to another video tutorial. This time around, we're back with another top 5 video. This time we're going to be talking about the top 5 ways to a fuller left hand. Now, some of you might play with your left hand, but don't know how to get that sound to make your chords sound a lot fuller. Well, this video is just for you. And we're going to be using the track and some chord progressions that I'm going to do a future lesson on when it comes down to worship concepts and chords and arpeggios and fillings and stuff like that to help you to enhance your worship sound. But we're going to start with this video on the top 5 ways to get a fuller sound using your left hand. Also, guys, I keep forgetting to tell you guys to do this. Please, we would love to see your growth. Please use the button on the screen and do a video saying what you learned from the lesson. It's pretty much on every lesson in the Gospel Music Training Center. Your feedback is so important to us. We really use that feedback to kind of gauge if we're going in the right direction and what things we need to change and what things we just need to do on GP just to make the Gospel Music Training Center better. So please use that button where it says to let us know how you're doing with it. It's pretty much making a video of you talking, or you can even play, but the feedback is very important to us. So take advantage of it. It's on the page below. I don't remember exactly what it says, but you will see exactly what I'm talking about. I think it says, what did you learn from this lesson? I think that's what it says. But it's different on different pages, so don't quote me on that. But you'll see what I'm talking about. So I'm looking forward to those submissions. Okay, so we're going to be in the key of A flat major. Let's check out the number system and scale. Here we go. So A flat is our 1. B flat is the 2. C is our 3. D flat is the 4. E flat is the 5. F is the 6. G is the 7. And then we're back at the 1, A flat, okay? So that's what we call our number system and scale. That is what we're going to use to identify the chord progressions that I'm going to be talking about using the number system for the A flat major scale. So it's very important that you understand that what you play in your left hand, that dictates the chord progression based off of the scale. And it happens with the left hand. So if I say go to the 1, that means in your left hand, you're going to play the A flat. If I say go to the 4, that means in your left hand, you're going to play the D flat, okay? So it's just a concept of understanding how the numbers connect to the scale, but the left hand is going to actually play the number, which dictates the chord progression. All right, so you should know that if you've been in the Gospel Music Training Center, GMTC, for any amount of time, we use the language of chord progressions and the number system and scales and stuff like that to help you to understand. All right, so the chord progression that I'm going to play is very simple. I'm not doing a whole lot. I want you to focus on what's happening in the left hand. I did another video that's going to get into the right hand and chords and stuff for worship concepts and things that will help you to enhance that. So don't worry about my right hand. We're focusing on the left hand. So the chord progression, here we go. 1, 2, 2, 3, and we're going from the 4, which is the D flat, to the 5, which is the E flat, to the 6, that's the F, to the 3, which is the C, okay? So what chords did it sound like this? Very simple. That's the 4 to the 5, to the 6, then to the 3, okay? So that is the basic concept. So as you can see, I'm playing single notes right now in my left hand. And we're not really getting into the chords. I got a single D flat on the 4. I got a single E flat on the 5, which means single, one note. Then when I go to the 6, I got the F, that's the 6, and then to the 3, okay? Now, I want you to understand that these concepts are universal, meaning you could do these things in the left hand for both major chords as well as minor chords. And if we go off of that, then I'll let you know. So the first thing that you could do, no matter what chord that you're playing, and this is depending on the sound that you want for that particular style. So when I think about doing stuff like this, it's more of a season. It's more of a taste depending on what's lacking. So if the song doesn't sound full enough, I'll do certain things to make it sound fuller, but some things don't sound as good as others. So for number one, this first thing that you could do is play what we call an octave in the left hand. What's an octave? It's pretty much doubling up on the same exact note. So if we look at the first tone, which is the D flat, that's the 4. We're in the key of A flat still with this chord progression. So instead of just playing D flat, you can instantly get a fuller sound by simply just doubling up on the same note. So now we got, this is called an octave. So now we're instantly going to get a fuller sound by doing this concept right here, which is the first concept. So you can take the same concept and do octaves on every tone that I showed you in this chord progression, going from the 4, going to the 5, to the 6, play that kind of loud, to the 3, okay? So let's listen to that in context, all right? Let me first play it without the octaves so you can hear the difference. 1, 2, 3, it's very subtle too. So this is without the octaves. Single bass notes, that's the 4, to the 5, to the 6, to the 3. Now this is how it sounds with the octave in there. Just gets a little bigger. It's bigger. Now I wouldn't do this all the time. Now when songs build up and the drummer's getting bigger, you might hear the bass player, or not the bass player, the keyboard player, they might get bigger by going lower in the piano and playing octaves down there, because once you go lower, you can't really add more notes in between, which is what the second concept is gonna be. We're gonna get into power chords. It's gonna be too low. So you can do octave lower, especially when the song builds up. You know what I mean? And it just gives you a bigger presence, because when you think about that bass, it just fills up the room a little bit more because of the thickness in the low end, okay? So that's concept one, adding octaves to your left hand. Now, what's the next concept? Concept number 2 is doing something that we call power chords. This is another universal concept that you can use on both major chords as well as minor chords, any pretty much type of chord, major 7s, major 9s, the list goes on, experiment, but let me show you what it is. So a power chord, if we were to do this first tone, which is the 4, D flat, that's the same one we've been going over. Remember, this is a 4, 5, 6, 3 chord progression. So the first tone, the D flat. What's a power chord? Well, based upon this particular tone, which is the D flat, if you think about the D flat major scale, you would play the 1 of the D flat scale. That would be the tone that you're on. Then the 5 of that, the 5 tone of the D flat major scale is A flat, and then the 1 again. So it's like you're playing an octave with the 5 of that tone in the middle, okay? So I think this tone splits both of these evenly. Let me see. If I count up half steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, it doesn't split it evenly. But I guess a quick way to get to it would be going backwards. So if you play an octave and you don't really know your scales, which you should, better get in that foundational lessons and learn your scales. But if you count down half steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 5 half steps going down. So it's the 1, the 5, and the 1 of the scale of that tone. But if you don't know that scale and you kind of want to pick it up a little bit faster, you can play the octave, and then from the top note of the octave, count down 5 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's your middle note. And then play it all together. Now we have a power chord, okay? So that is the power chord for D flat, for the 4. Now if we go to the 5, the power chord for the 5th tone of E flat is E flat, B flat, and E flat. E flat, thinking about the E flat major scale, E flat is the 1. The 5th tone of the E flat major scale is B flat. And then we got the 1 again. So the 1, 5, and 1 based off the E flat major scale. Or just play the octave, count down 5 half steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's the middle note, okay? Now let's go to the 6. This is one that you should pick up on really quick, because if you know your basic chords, you know, all your basic chords are made up of like major chords. All your basic major chords are built off of the 1, the 3, and the 5 of the major scale. So if you know a basic, we're on the 6th tone now. If you know an F major chord, then you already know the middle note is going to be C, because an F major chord is built off the 1, the 3, and the 5 of F major. So you don't even really got to think of the scale too much if you know your basic chords, because the 5 is in there already, with it being the 1, 3, and the 5 for F major chord. But I'm not going to go too far off with chords. I want you to understand these concepts, and I want to make it easy for you. All right, so this is the power chord for F. Shortcut, you can find the octave and then count down 5 half steps from the top note. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom, you got your octave and you got your power chord note in the middle. So we got the F power chord right there. So we got the D flat power chord. And this is something that guitar players use a lot, especially in rock. Similar to rock, you got contemporary Christian music and gospel music. Well, I guess that's a separate genre. But you know, those songs that have a lot of guitar, like you got your acoustic guitar, you got your distortions guitars, and those driving chords, they're not like full on chords that we would play on the piano, but they're power chords, but they sound full because they have that distortion on them, and they play in a lower register of the, you know, the frequency range, which will be similar to us playing down here on the piano, okay? And it sounds really good when you have the distortion on. But as keyboard players, pianists, this is something that you can also take advantage of to get a fuller sound. So these are power chords. So we got the 4, then we got the 5, then we got the 6. So that is concept number 2. That is power chords. Another thing to add to your arsenal, I didn't tell you what chord to play it over, because you could do it pretty much over any chord. And it's something that you could do to make your chord sound fuller. But like I said, it's a seasoned thing. Like when you're cooking and you want to sprinkle a little salt, or you want to make something taste better, if you want to make something sound better, this is an option. But use your ears. Let your ears guide you to say, okay, I might not like this for this particular style or this particular song, but it's definitely just another option of something that you could do in your arsenal to immediately make something sound fuller. So now we're on the third concept, number 3. We're gonna do something called the 159, or you can call it the 152 if you don't know your scale past the octave. But the reason why I say 159 is because based off of the tone you're on, which in this case is the D flat. Let's look at that one first. We're gonna play the 1, the 5, and then the 9 is pretty much a whole step up from the octave note. But when you think about the scale, this technically would be considered the 9 of the scale, because once you do a scale, in this case, this is based off of, we're in the key of A flat, but we're basing our concept off of the root note of this tone, which is D flat. So we're using the D flat scale as the root to build this concept off of. So if we look at the D flat major scale, D flat is the 1, E flat is the 2, F is the 3, G flat is the 4, A flat is the 5, B flat is the 6, C is the 7, and then because we're gonna keep counting, we would have to say 8 for the D flat. And then we were to keep counting, we would say 9 because we're gonna go past the octave, okay? So you can call this the 9 or you can call this the 2, but when it comes down to chord extensions, I know you probably heard of chord extensions like 9ths, 11ths, and 13ths. You heard of major 7s, major 9s, major 13s, not so much. Dominant 13, stuff like that. The scale is used in that way where once you get past the octave, certain numbers change. So the 2 is also the 9. But when you add that tone to a chord and you extend the chord, you don't call it the 2 anymore, you call it the 9. So just for shortcuts, you got chord extensions, you got your 7ths. The 7th is already a part of the scale because it's basically not really a chord extension because it hasn't went past the octave. Kind of is, but isn't. But then the 2 is the same thing as the 9. So when you think about a 9th chord, the 2 is the same thing as the 9. The 4 is the same thing as the 11th. And then the 13th is the same thing as the 6th. So I'm just saying this for those of you who have heard of these terms before, like 9th chords, 11th chords, and 13th chords. The tone of the scale that you would use is 2, 4, 6. So 2 is the same thing as the 9, 4 is the same thing as the 11th, and the 13 is the same thing as the 6. So 2, 4, 6, and that's 9th extension, 11th extension, and 13th extension. All right, so that's a shortcut. So with this concept with the 159, remember 159? So a quick way to just do this without even thinking about 159 is you can start with the power chord, right? And then just take the top note up a whole step, okay? And that gives you this nice color. It's like you're adding the 9 to a chord. So if you were to play a regular D flat major chord, right? And you added this, now it's like you're playing a D flat major chord with the add 9. It adds more color to it and it makes the chord sound fuller, especially when you play higher. Okay? So that E flat, that tone is a really nice color tone. And like I said, you gotta pick and use when you wanna use these things because they don't work all the time. So I'm not telling you, do this just because I'm teaching you. Let your ear guide you. It's seasoning, it's a little bit of flavor that you can add to your chords, all right? So that's the 159 for the D flat. Let's look at it on the E flat. It'll be like this. We got E flat, B flat, and F, okay? We got the 1, the 5, and the 9 of the E flat major scale. Now, like I said, if you know what the power chord is, which is something I just showed you, that was concept 2, all you gotta do is find the power chord first, and then raise the top note up a whole step. And you're already there. You got it, okay? So, going from the 4, back in the key of A flat logic. I'm thinking about A flat now. So we're on the 4th tone, which is D flat. And then we go to the 5, which is the E flat. Okay? Now let's go to the 6th tone. So I'm doing the same thing, except for the 6th tone in this case is minor. It's not a major chord, so that's why I said these concepts are universal, but it all depends on the sound that you really want. That's going to determine if you want to use these particular concepts from one versus the other, okay? So we got the 1, the 5, and the 9 of F minor, which is the same thing as F major, if you think about this, the F minor scale. The 2 and the 9 are the same thing in either key. It's still going to be the G, okay? Regardless. All right, so that is the 1, the 5, and the 9. And same concept, you can find the power chord for F first, and then take the top note up a whole step, boom. That's a quick way to find it too as well, all right? So let's look at that. Here we go. So we're gonna go from the 4. That's the 4 to the 5, okay? Into the 6. Now I'm gonna go to the 3. Now, I'm for sure it's not gonna work on the 3 this time. And that's because this A flat chord, we're playing an A flat major chord over the 3. So in the cases where you play like a major type of chord quality or a minor type of chord quality, you're gonna find this to work more often than that. But once you get into some of these chords where you're playing maybe a different type of chord over a different bass note, kind of like when you play the 1 chord over the 3, or if you play the 4 chord over the 6. So in a lot of cases, some chords kind of like, you can take that chord and play it over another bass note, and it kind of changes the chord, but it's really, without getting you too confused, it's kind of an inversion of the same chord. So say, for example, I play the A flat major chord, right? But then I go to the 3 and I play that same A flat major chord. That's essentially what I'm doing. But this is really still an A flat major chord, because guess what? C is a part of the chord. So it's not like I'm really playing an A flat major chord over C. I'm just playing, you could just call this an A flat major chord, even though C is the bass note, but it's like an inversion of the same chord, because the C is already a part of the chord already, okay? I could see if I was playing a note that wasn't in the chord, but since C is a part of it, you could just look at this still as an A flat major chord, just played in like first inversion, okay? But I'm saying that to say this. A lot of the chords like this, you're gonna find that when it's over a different bass note, it's just not gonna work, because you're gonna find like chords like the 3, or tones like the 3, and tones like the, the 7. The 3 and the 7, you're gonna find this not to really work too often in that particular key, because once you get into like the 1, the 5, and the 9 of those particular tones, now you're hitting notes that's not in the scale. So the 3, when you're on the 3, this doesn't really work in a particular key, and then when you're on the 7, it doesn't really work. What else would it be a problem with? I think those are more so the 2 problematic ones. Yeah. Yep. And then when you go to minor tones, it will work in a minor sense, but I'm gonna just leave it at that. On the 3, it doesn't really work. On the 7, it doesn't really work, okay? But you got the concept. If I was just to play it, it'd be like this. That's the 4 to the 5. That's how it looks. To the 6. And sometimes I like to break it up, and it adds even more color. Watch. Just a little subtle color. Okay? So, that is the 159 concept. Now, the next one, number 4, is the 1510 concept. So we're just gonna add another tone. We're gonna go even further, and this one is a lot bigger of a stretch. You got the 1, the 5, and then the 10th. So what that would look like is basically, once you know what the 9th is, you would go up a whole step from there. So this is the 159 for a D flat. If we were to play 1510, pretty much you're just going up to the next note of the scale, which is F, okay? And if we were to count the scale and at least stop at F, it would be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so once we go past the octave, so in some keys, this is gonna be a lot harder than others, okay? So you're gonna have to make a stretch, okay? But it'll sound like this. And this is when you do this more so when you end up playing a little bit higher and you still want that depth, that low end in your chord. This is when you do it, because when you're playing down here, it's pointless to even try to do it, because your right hand can play that note, right? So that's pointless. But when you go up higher, now you still hear it. But this is one of those, now you're getting into some advanced stuff, because you gotta make that stretch. And as you can see, I'm over here like doing the splits with my hand. And that is a big stretch. So one thing that you could do when it comes down to trying to get to that level where your fingers are stretching a whole lot more, every day, if you can, just put your hands on the edge of the keyboard. I'm not sure if you can see this. And then one finger at a time, maybe one hand at a time too. Just stretch as much as you can, like doing the splits, and hold it for about 20 seconds. Now, if you get hurt, don't try to sue me. I'm just trying to help you out a little bit. Don't go too far. Don't try to do something that you can't do, because I didn't tell you to go overboard. I said stretch, all right? So we got that finger, and then, I might be able to stretch further than you because I've done this for some time, like in my earlier years of playing. But just start every day to stretch and hold it and do both hands, because it's really going to help when it comes down to the left hand, when it comes down to playing these things. Jazz players, they do this stuff a lot. They play tenths, and it's really an interval, a tenth interval, but we also have the 1, the 5, and the 10th. So that's one thing I should have told you. It's more of an interval of the scale, which is distance between notes. So it's a 10th interval away. And it's a very challenging interval to play, especially if you have smaller hands. And my hands really aren't that big. Jermaine got some big hands, so he'll probably play this easy. But, so that's on the 4. So if we were to do the same concept and play it over the 5, it'll look like this. And this is just another thing you can also, if you can't do it, and this is a trick. Sometimes if you can't do these things, break it up. And it still sounds good, because once you hit your sustain pedal, the notes still catch. So you're still gonna hear it. So this is 1, 5, 10 for the 4th tone. This is 1, 5, 10 for the 5th tone, which is E flat. We're still in the scale of A flat major, just relating the 1, 5, 10 to the tone, the bass note, or the lowest note. 1, 5, 10, 1, 5, 10. And even for a minor, that's 1, 5, 10, okay? So let's see how that sounds. So that's a 1, 5, 10. 1, 5, 10. You see that? That's different. That's on the 3. And this is another one I forgot to tell you about. So we gotta, I can't say top 6 because that don't sound right. So 1, 5, 10. You can break it up like that. That sounds good too as well. Now, you probably just caught on to something because when I got to the 6th tone, my 1, 5, 10 was different. It wasn't this. And the reason why is because the root or the chord quality of this particular tone is minor. It's not major. So I'm basing my 10th or tone off of the F minor scale. So when you play a minor chord, basically the 3 of the scale, of the F minor scale, is the same thing as the 10th. And for major, the 3 is A. So if we think about the F major scale, the 3rd tone of the F major scale is A. The 3rd note of the F minor scale is A flat. It's a flat 3. Okay, so just remember that. For minor chords, the 10th tone or the 10th interval is different. Maybe that'll help you to understand. It's the interval. It's the 10th interval based off of the minor chord quality. All right? So that's that. That is the 1, 5, 10 principle. So you got those things. And remember, this is a lot more of a challenging thing that you could do, but the better you get, you will be able to incorporate this the stronger your hands get. So don't be discouraged and don't just automatically say, I can't do this, because you can with time. I want to encourage you, you can do anything with time. I've been playing for quite some time, so I know I make it look easy, but trust me, you didn't see my struggles. I had to go through them just like anybody else, and you don't have a story without having a struggle. So make sure you fight, make sure you keep practicing, make sure you do your stretches, because it's gonna help you in the long run, and just be patient with yourself because it is a process. All right, so that is the 10th. And like I said, if you have a problem, if you have smaller hands, you could break it up like that. Whoops, not like that. Not like that. Okay? And there's another thing that I was gonna tell you. One thing I also do sometimes is, now that I did it on accident, I forgot, is I'll add 2 concepts together. So I'll do the power chord, and I'll have the 9 too as well. And that sounds good. Sounds even fuller. So power chord, and then add the tone that's a whole step up from the top note. Okay? That sounds good. And it doesn't work for everyone, because sometimes just the fingering is weird. Like for E flat, this is the power chord, but how are we gonna add the F? It usually works when you can play 2 notes with one finger. So it works for this one. But if we try to take this to E flat, I look like I'm throwing up gang signs. I don't try it for everything, but some stuff where I could do the double note thing with 1 finger. That's the 1 and the 2, or the octave and the 9th interval, okay? So that's another thing that you could do. I hope this stuff isn't going over your head. I hope I'm making it simple. So that concept, just to make sure you understand, all I did was put 2 concepts together. I put the octave concept together with the 1, 5, 9 concept. And it's only pretty much just adding 1 note, which is the E flat, which is a whole step up from the top note anyway. So just add it. But like I said, it doesn't work for everything, because if the note is not right next to it, if it's like, if it's not on an even playing field and it's either upstairs or downstairs, then it's gonna be hard to do. Like for the E flat, right? If we do a power chord, I think I was saying octave, I meant to say power chord. If we do the power chord for E flat, and then we try to add the 9, which is pretty much a whole step up from the top note, we can't do that 2 note thing with 1 finger. How? You can't do it. So you would have to awkwardly put your fingers in a position that it's not worth the struggle. Trust me. So that is number 4. And then I added another little bit of something on top of that by doubling up on some concepts. Hopefully this is all making sense to you. Drop some comments. Please let me know what you're thinking. If you need further clarification on anything, I'll be glad to do it. Also, guys, I keep forgetting to tell you guys to do this. Please, we would love to see your growth. Please use the button on the screen and do a video saying what you learned from the lesson. It's pretty much on every lesson in the Gospel Music Training Center. Your feedback is so important to us. We really use that feedback to kind of gauge if we're going in the right direction and what things we need to change and what things we just need to do on GP just to make the Gospel Music Training Center better. So please use that button where it says to let us know how you're doing with it. It's pretty much making a video of you talking, or you can even play, but feedback is very important to us. So take advantage of it. It's on the page below. I don't remember exactly what it says, but you will see exactly what I'm talking about. I think it says, what did you learn from this lesson? I think that's what it says. But it's different on different pages, so don't quote me on that. But you'll see what I'm talking about. So I'm looking forward to those submissions. So where are we at? Oh, we're at number 5, the 5th and final thing. Now this one is, let me see. The concept that I came up with for this is the 1, 5, and the 7. So this is easier than the other concepts. And I saved this one for last because when you do this over certain tones, it kind of adds a different color, because when you add the major 7 to a chord, if you're not meaning for the chord to have that major 7 sound, then it's something that you should do specifically kind of for more extended chord voicings that you want that color for. So say, for example, I'm playing this first chord on a D flat, right? Notice, I'm not playing the C. The C is the major 7th, but it adds a different type of tonality, a different type of texture and vibe. So it's something that I necessarily didn't want to do for that chord. So when I played it like this, I could play an octave, I can play the 1, 5, 9, and when I add this major 7, you hear that sounds? Now it doesn't sound bad, but it just all depends on how you want the chord to sound. If you're playing like the C, if it's already a part of like the chord extension that you're playing, in this case, I'm playing like a D flat major 9 chord, then in your left hand, it could work. But you know, it's all about voicings and stuff like that. So this is the reason why I did this last, because this is something I use more so for colorful chords, like major 9s, major 7s. When I'm playing kind of like more of worship stuff, I don't do this all the time, but it depends on the type of voicing you want to play with. But it definitely sounds good. You just have to let your ear be the guide and see if this is what you would want to use for certain types of chords. And I'm saying use it, but be careful with how you use it, because you can definitely change the vibe by doing it. Okay, so, and I'll just show you. And you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so we're on the 4, and the 1, 5 is called the 1, 5, 7 because we're using this based off of the major chord quality. So for those of you that are like, what are you talking about, chord quality? You probably didn't go through the foundational lessons. We use a lot of different terms when it comes down to being in the Gospel Music Training Center. We teach the language of music, and we use terms to help you to understand. So a chord quality is whether the chord is major, whether the chord is minor, augmented, diminished. That's the quality of the chord. So when I say based off the chord quality, that's going to determine if you're playing a major type of chord, then you're going to reference the major scale in relationship to that. So if you're playing a minor chord quality, if I say the scale for that tone, then you're not going to use the major scale for that. You're going to use the minor scale. So if we're on a D flat and I'm playing a minor chord, then I'm going to be referencing the minor quality of the D flat minor scale, okay? Which is weird that I messed that up, but you get what I'm saying. So keep that in mind. So with the major chord qualities, I'm going off the major scale, so then I would play the major 7, okay, for this particular chord. And the reason why I'm specifically saying that is because when you get to minor chords, the 7 is not gonna be the same. The 7 is gonna be flatted. So keep that in mind. With minor chords, the 7th is different than major chords, and that's the exact reason why I'm talking about chord qualities, okay? So, we got D flat, A flat, and C. This is the 1, the 5, and the 7 for the D flat major scale, okay? Now, if we do this same concept on the E flat bass, we're still in the key of A flat. So if we do this on the 5, the 5th tone, now you see what I'm talking about. Like, this is something that you gotta really be careful with, because if I play an E flat major chord, which is an E flat major chord quality, or E flat major chord with an add 9, I don't have the major 7 in the chord because it's not the sound that I'm looking for. So once I add that 1, 5, 7, major 7 in my left hand, now I don't like how that sounds. You know what I mean? So you gotta really be specific with what you're trying to do. And the more you explore and experiment around with these concepts, you're gonna kind of already know how it's gonna sound before you hit it. So for example, I'll just show you how it sounds. Let me go back to loop. So let me show you how this changes the vibe. So I'll play it with the regular stuff. This is without those things. This is without the 1, 5, 7 in the left hand, okay? So now I'm gonna do the major 7 thing in my left hand, 1, 5, 7. You hear that sound? Don't sound good. This one sounds good, because it's minor. And I'm not doing it on the 3, okay? So this is how it sounds on the 4. Not bad. So you hear what I'm saying? It got that. This tone sticks out a lot. And unless you want to really hear that, I wouldn't do it. So it all depends on the placement and the song arrangement and everything, but this is the major 7 way to do it. It's for a D flat major chord. 1, 5, and 7. This is based off the scale of D flat major. 1, 5, and 7. And then for E flat, it'll be 1, 5, and 7. But like I said, it doesn't really work. Now for minor, for the F minor, this would be the 1, 5, and the 7 for F minor. Remember, the minor is different. So if we were doing a major chord on the F, then the 7 would be E, because the E is actually the major 7. But we don't want that. We're on the 6th tone, and you should know most of the time when you're on the 6th tone, you're playing a minor chord most of the time, unless you're gonna flip it. But you don't really do that in worship, not too often. So we want it to be minor. So now we have the flat 7 instead of the major 7. So keep that in mind. So we got the 1, the 5, and the flat 7. And this works on any minor chord. I'll show you. I'll play a regular minor chord. I'll play a minor 9, a minor 11. 1, 2, 3. Okay? So I'll play a regular F minor chord. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. Let me do it again. Let's come around again. So here it is right here. Now I'll play a more colorful one. It sounds a lot better with more colorful ones. See that? In the left hand. So it's just a matter of like this F, C, and E flat, that's the 1, 5, and a 7 for F minor, and it works really well. So think about it, 1, 5, 7 for minor, 1, 5, 7 for major is different, and it depends on the bass note and the quality of the chord. So keep that in mind. That's the key, that's the major key. So that is the top 5 things that you can do for your left hand. I wanted to really dive into this because a lot of people have a problem with making their chords sound fuller. And these are things I do all the time when I play. And it's just second nature to me at this point because the more you do it, the easier it comes natural to you. So really practice, take your time because it's not gonna come overnight, but with consistency, with practice, with repetition, you're gonna have this under your belt. All right, so God bless. Thanks for tuning in. These chords and concepts and a lot of stuff that I was doing, I'm actually working on another tutorial that's built around, I'm not sure exactly what I'm gonna call it, but worship concepts using that same chord progression and showing you how you could build chords, arpeggios, and a lot of things to enhance your worship sound. And this is something that you're gonna be able to transcribe and use in all areas of your playing when it comes down to worship music. So look forward to that. Make sure you leave us a video. Let us know where you're at, what you're playing. We really wanna know. God bless, don't be shy. And remember, if you can hear it, you can play it.